Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Señor G here. We've already talked about complex sentences or sentences with dual clauses with words like querer, esperar, or prohibir, which will signal to us that we should use the subjunctive in the dependent clause. Or impersonal expressions like es posible que, es importante que, es necesario que, that also will signal that we will be using the subjunctive. Now let's look at some other verbs and phrases that are going to signal that we'll use the subjunctive. First, let's see if we can get back in the mood. If these sentences were written in Spanish, could you tell which ones were subjunctive and which were indicative? The ones that light up in green are subjunctive, and the ones that fade away are in the indicative mood. That second one is in the indicative. The clock on the wall says there's a minute till math class, and we still have 2 flights of stairs to go up to get there. We know we're going to be late. That's in the indicative. The fourth one down, we're looking for a man that mows lawns. Well, if we need somebody to mow our lawn and we don't know who he is yet, and we're asking around if somebody knows somebody who mows lawns, that's in the subjunctive. On the other hand, if our father always mows the lawn, or it's his turn to mow the lawn, and we're looking around for him, we know who it is, that's the indicative. I think you'll remember the formula that helps us visualize when we use the subjunctive. That would be subject 1 plus verb 1 plus the word K plus subject 2 plus verb 2. That also happens to be the way that native speakers most often use the subjunctive. We'll have a main clause, and depending on the verb in the main clause, that will signal whether or not we use the subjunctive in the dependent clause. We've mostly looked at the present indicative in the main clause, but we can also see the future or commands or the present perfect in the main clause. We'll look at all those today, and any one of those can signal whether or not we use the subjunctive in the dependent clause. We will look at the perfect subjunctive in a companion video. So, you in a weird mood? It might help if you remember the acronym WEIRDO, which stands for wishes, emotions. Thank you, Elsie. Impersonal expressions, recommendations, doubt and denial, and ojalá. Words and expressions in these categories will signal the subjunctive mood, especially if they're talking about doubt and uncertainty. Here's a partial list of verbs that express wishes. Notice that there's one sentence in the future tense and one sentence is a command. Here's some emotional verbs that will signal the subjunctive. One sentence here is in the future and one is in the present perfect. We are just looking at the present subjunctive, but by the way, the tense of the subjunctive depends on the tense of the main verb. The four main clause tenses we're using here only signal the present subjunctive. We will talk about other tenses that will signal other subjunctive tenses on a companion video. Here's some impersonal expressions that signal the subjunctive. One thing you may want to do is, if you see an expression and you come away with the feeling that something is true or real, you'll want to use the indicative. Otherwise, if you're still not certain, then you'll want to use the subjunctive. Some verbs here that are recommendations. This is an easy one. How often do we ever follow anybody's advice? Rarely, right? You know that's a subjunctive. These verbs express doubt and denial. In all four of these dependent clauses, we can't be sure that these things are true. Well, once again, there is one sentence in the future and there is another in the present perfect. Oh, hala is just an expression. If I hope to God, if only I hope. And notice you can use the word K or it can be omitted. The rest of these are just odds and ends that we will pull out of our weirdo paradigm and give a little closer scrutiny. Here's some more words that can signal the subjunctive, but only when we're talking about uncertainty and doubt and so forth. For instance, if I were going to use the word cuando as in, I always raise my hand when the teacher asks for volunteers. In that case, that's certain. That's something that always happens, and then I would be using the indicative mood when I use cuando. Wherever, whenever, whoever, whatever, those words signal the subjunctive.
Whatever?
That's what I said, whatever, and wherever, and whoever, and whatever else I said, all signal the subjunctive. And down below, por plus an adjective or adverb plus K, that will signal the subjunctive, meaning however. For instance, however ugly she may be, I'll invite her, or however well you pronounce it, you have to say it again. Can you see the indefinite nature of these sentences? And look for the negative aspect in the ones that follow these. First one, I need a pen that functions or works well. That is the subjunctive because you don't have one yet. As opposed to saying tengo una pluma que funciona, bien. That is the indicative. Earlier we were looking for a man to mow lawns. Buscamos un hombre que corte, subjunctive. But if somebody knew of one or had one, he would say, tengo un hombre que corta the lawn, and that would be the indicative. Here, nobody, nothing, or none signal the subjunctive. And finally, you remember commands. These are indirect commands, and they take on the subjunctive. For instance, may they enter, or let them enter. May she speak, or let her speak. May you tell the truth. And finally, may you have a great day.